on diversifying your retirement portfolio with real estate. We're going to have a guest presenter on today, someone who's an expert and a seasoned investor in real estate, going to share his thoughts on how to find the right properties, maybe how to look for the right areas, and go through a lot of the criteria that he uses when investing in real estate, especially with an eye to investing in, obviously, in real estate using an IRA account. My name is Scott Maurer. I'm the Director of Business Development for Advanta IRA. I'm also a licensed attorney, although I don't do any legal work for Advanta clients. It gives me a good understanding, probably the background of some of the rules that we'll discuss a little bit in brief today, and talk about that. I've been with the company, though, since early 2006. Spent a lot of my first few years talking with individuals and helping individuals through their actual transactions, going from the standpoint of buying and selling the properties, or doing mortgage notes and all the other creative deals that our clients have done over the years. Spent more of the last few years, though, doing more of the education and marketing side of the business and presenting live seminars and webinars such as the one that you're listening to today. As we go through the presentation today, if anyone on the live call has a question, please type that question into the chat box on your screen. I'll be more than happy to answer those either as we go or maybe save those for the end, whether the questions is for myself or our guest today. Please type those questions in. If you're listening to the recorded version, jot down your questions and my contact information, and I'm sure Rob will put out his contact information at the end of the presentation. You can always contact us later to get your questions answered. Just a quick disclaimer from Advanta here. We don't give any legal, tax, or investment advice to any of our clients. So if you were looking at buying a piece of property, we do not evaluate that property as whether it's a good or bad investment. We don't endorse any deal and say, I think this is a good idea for you to do or something you should pursue. Likewise, we don't really give any legal or tax advice. Now, we will talk about some legal and tax issues a little bit in the course of today's seminar and also in many of the other webinars and seminars that we do. But when it comes time to make a decision from a legal or tax perspective, we do encourage you to speak with your attorney or your accountant before getting into that type of investment to have them help you make that right decision. A little bit of background on Advanta. We've been around since 2004, and the only thing we do at Advanta is administer self-directed retirement accounts. We only handle qualified money, whether it be an IRA, a Roth IRA, an old 401k. Those are the only funds that we are permitted to hold on behalf of our clients. We do have a local feel. Even for clients who do not live, we have two offices, one in Tampa, one in Atlanta. If you're somebody who lives close to those offices, obviously you can come in and meet with somebody to get your questions answered. But even for clients who do not live geographically close to us, we have an account manager system whereby each new account gets assigned to one particular individual who will oversee and be the point of contact for you. So it kind of gives you that local feel that you have one person, someone to contact, get in touch with, who knows you, knows what you're looking to invest in, and you won't simply be a number or required to call just an 800 number to get your questions answered. Just a little bit of background on self-directed IRAs before we turn the presentation over to Rob. Kind of most people are not familiar, as far as most of the people on this call, if not everyone, is at least familiar with self-directed IRAs. You found us, you found this event today, you may even already be self-directing yourself. But as far as a lot of people who don't know about self-directed IRA accounts, why is that? A lot of people ask me that when I'm giving a seminar or webinar. It says, how come more people don't know about this? And I think the easiest answer to that is that most IRAs are held with banks and brokerage firms who offer their clients limited investment products, whether it's a mutual fund or a stock or a CD. Those companies are only willing to hold those assets that they sell. IRS regulations do allow you to invest in a much broader range of investments, whether it be real estate, private notes, mortgages, etc., and some of the things we'll talk about today. You can certainly invest in those within your retirement account. The IRS does not require each custodian to hold each particular asset. So that's why Smith Barney and Charles Schwab decide to hold mutual funds and stocks, and we've made the decision simply to hold real estate and all the alternatives as well. Now, as far as the types of accounts that you can self-direct, any type of IRA, whether it is a traditional or Roth IRA account, A SEP or a simple, which is kind of an employer-based IRA. If you own your own business or if you work for a small business, you may have a SEP or a simple IRA. We also offer qualified 401k plans for self-employed individuals. And we also have education and health savings accounts. All of these accounts share similar tax benefits, but these are the accounts that can be self-directed, whether it's a traditional Roth, SEP, simple. What's not included on this list to keep in mind, any old 401k, any old employer-sponsored plan, generally speaking, can be rolled over into a traditional IRA. So if you've worked for a company for a number of years, built up a 401k or built up a 403b or a pension fund, you probably can roll those monies into a traditional IRA and then get that money in a self-directed account. As far as the two main reasons I think clients have used their IRA or continue to use their IRA to invest in real estate, most people fall into one or both of the categories listed here on this slide. For a lot of people, investing with an IRA is just providing them, the IRA is providing them with a new source of capital. It's cash that they didn't realize they had access to, they can use to simply acquire more properties. So a lot of real estate investors are always looking for the next deal. A lot of real estate investors don't like having to go to a bank or some other lender. Using your IRA funds allows you to simply buy a property for cash without anybody's permission other than your own. And so it's a new source. A lot of people, when they find out they can use their IRA, it's simply a new place to use to fund their deals. And for a number of other clients, the fact that the investing with an IRA, you do so is either tax-deferred or tax-free. So when you are making investments in real estate or mutual funds for that matter, the gains you make in that account come back to the IRA without any tax repercussions. The money, if it's a traditional IRA, comes back in, it's tax-deferred, and you can continue to use that money and compound your money more quickly by not having to pay taxes at each step of the process. And again, I think maybe a third reason not on this list that a lot of people find intriguing about self-directed IRAs as well and real estate is the control aspect of being able to control your investment and know what it is that you are investing into. Rather than putting their money into the stock market, some people feel that's more risky. They don't really like the roller coaster ride. They get more control and feel more comfortable and can sleep at night investing their IRA funds into a real estate property that they know, that they can see, that they can touch. Now, when we talk about real estate specifically, your IRA can really buy real estate in any form, whether it's a piece of raw land, whether it's a commercial property, whether you're doing a short-term rehab or flip. You can even buy residential properties, whether it be a single-family home or a condo, and have the rental income coming back into the IRA as well. So any type of real estate, if it has a deed associated with it, can be held in your IRA. We also see, not on this slide, a number of people do private mortgage lending as well, where your IRA isn't actually buying property, but it may be lending money to somebody else who is buying the property, basically having your IRA act as a bank in that situation. When it comes to IRA investments, the IRS only limits you from doing a few particular things within your IRA. The two prohibited investments are life insurance and collectibles. And you can see collectibles include your antiques, artwork, stamps, coins, etc. These are the only investments the IRS says you cannot make within your IRA account. If you go to the code, ever since 1975, these have been the only two assets that have been listed. The other restriction, though, that comes up more when we talk about self-direction and using your IRA to buy real estate is the IRS also does prohibit you from using your IRA to transact with certain disqualified persons. And the disqualified persons for your IRA include yourself and your spouse, your parents, grandparents, your children and grandchildren, as well as any business or entity that is owned or controlled by one of the above. So not only can your IRA not transact with these disqualified persons, none of these individuals can get any type of current benefit from the IRA as well. In the context of real estate, what that means is your IRA can only be purchasing investment property. You cannot use your IRA to buy a single-family home that you intend to live in, that you want to vacation in, that you want to use from time to time. It has to be strictly 100% for investment purposes only. And again, your IRA cannot buy a piece of real estate that you already own. So if you had a rental property in your personal portfolio that you would like to move to your IRA, that unfortunately is just not permitted under the rules for the IRA accounts. Now I do want to go over to a short case study before we turn it over to Rob, just illustrating how two individuals, in this case a husband and wife, use their IRAs together as opposed to transacting with, as far as doing opposing deals, but Paul and Linda using their IRAs to partner up on a deal and buy a piece of real estate. In this example, you have a husband and wife, each have $75,000 in their IRA accounts looking at buying some property, and they want to buy a foreclosure. But the house they're looking at needs some work, and when you combine the purchase price along with the repair costs, it's more than either one of them has in their two accounts. But what they are looking to do is simply use both IRAs in a partnership arrangement to buy that piece of real estate, and the net cash flow then coming back into their IRA accounts once they get the property repaired and get the property rented. So a very simple process for getting started. Paul and Linda opening up and funding their accounts at Advanta. This involves filling out the paperwork to establish the IRA, then funding their accounts by doing a transfer from their current custodian over into the Advanta account. When you transfer money from one IRA to another, it is a non-taxable, non-reportable event to move money in that fashion. So Paul and Linda don't have any taxes to worry about when it comes to making this particular movement of funds. Paul and Linda will find the investment property. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, Advanta does not keep a list of investments. We don't promote any investments, so it's up to Paul and Linda to find this deal on their own. They are going to make the offer to purchase and submit a form to us telling us what property it is that they're looking to buy. And our job at Advanta is to work with Paul and Linda and the title agent to make sure that the documents get titled correctly in the name of the IRA account, and also make sure that Paul and Linda have approved of all the paperwork as well. So they've looked over the HUD statement, the deed, any other closing documents, and approve those for us before we sign and ultimately wire funds to complete the purchase of the property. Now that the property is owned in their IRA, here is the titling that's used. For instance, Advanta IRA for benefit of Paul's IRA account, number 1234, as to a 50% undivided interest, and then also Linda's IRA as to a 50% undivided interest as well. So as you can see on the title as tenants in common, both IRAs are listed, and the percentage of ownership is listed, and that percentage must be based on the amount that comes from each IRA account. So no more and no less. So basically what you put into the deal, that's the percentage your IRA should take from that particular transaction. Now after the close of the purchase of the property, kind of the second phase of Advanta services kick in. The repairs, the maintenance, the taxes, insurance, any bills and expenses associated with that property must be paid directly from their IRAs based on the percentage of ownership. Our job at Advanta is to process those checks out, and also once the property is rented, the rental income coming back in will be deposited back into Paul and Linda's IRA account as well.
Oh, shoot.
So that's a kind of a quick example of the IRA and going over that. I'll be happy to take questions at the end. If you have questions as we go along, please type them into the chat box. But at this point, I want to turn the presentation over to RJ Polano, who's our guest today, who's going to share some of his tips for buying and selling real estate. Rob lives in Tampa, works in Atlanta, and is going to talk a little bit about Atlanta properties, I think, today. He was selected as a mentor by Jack Miller, and some people are familiar with Jack Miller and some of his teachings and some of his other disciples and mentors that he's fostered over the years. But I'm going to turn it over to RJ. Go ahead and take it over. And again, if you have questions as we go along, please type them into the box, and we'll get to them at the end. Rob, it's all yours.
Hey, thank you very much, Scott. First of all, folks, let me just say this. I deal with many IRA custodians as well as administrators for my own accounts, my family's accounts, as well as other investors that we put into transactions. And, while we don't endorse them, like they don't endorse people that do business, I must say this. I've had exemplary service from Advanta IRA. And I think it's important that you guys know that, because some of the bigger firms, you don't get that personal feeling anymore. Whenever I have an issue, I call up. And it's not really an issue if I don't understand something. They make it so easy. Now, I need you guys to give me about a 60-second break. I did something. I'm using somebody else's computer. I hit something on the screen. I just got to grab them from upstairs. They'll straighten me back out. I don't know what I did, but my Apple computer is not letting me do this. Scott, please talk.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, Rob. I had a couple questions come in on the IRA side. So while you do that, I'll get these questions answered.
Coming right back.
All right. First question was, how do you roll over a 401k to an IRA? And the answer to that is you would contact your 401k plan administrator to request them to do a direct rollover into an IRA account. Now, if it is a former employer, it should be a matter of just simply filling out the paperwork and directing them to do a direct rollover to an IRA. So you'd have to set up the IRA account, get the account established with us, then have a place for the 401k funds to roll over to. So to roll over a 401k, you generally speaking would contact the administrator of that plan to get that process started. Now, with a current employer, you would have to check. You may not have the ability to move any current funds over into an IRA account. But again, former employer, it's just a matter of contact the administrator of that plan and ask them to roll it over. Now, the next question, do you offer an IRA or 401k with checkbook control? The answer in a sense is yes. We've had clients do this type of strategy. I didn't cover it in the examples today, but our clients have used their IRA or old 401k funds, and a checkbook control IRA is a matter of simply forming an LLC and having, or a trust possibly, and having your IRA invest through that. We certainly have had many clients do that, and we can refer you to attorneys or CPAs who can help you set up that LLC if you need it. But that's generally how you get checkbook control, is by utilizing an LLC or a checkbook for that. You talk about the more flexible fee structure. We have two options how we bill fees. We can either charge $295 a year to hold one asset in an account, regardless of the value, or we have a second option where you can choose to your fees be based on the value of your account. So kind of have two different options. It's something really have to look at you on a more personal level and see what it is that you're looking into. One more question, Rob. I'm going to turn it back over to you. The question was, all costs for the property must be paid out of the IRA. What if the improvement costs go over the amount in the IRA? Can you contribute more to that IRA even if you've reached the max? The answer to that is, it's kind of when you're looking at buying the property up front, you're going to need to allow for that, and that you would not want to have the situation arise when your improvement costs go over what's in the IRA or what you have available to you in an IRA. Now, some of our clients have established an account, transferred funds over, they get low, and they then move more money over from another IRA account that they have elsewhere. Now, if that's not an option, you can always do your annual contribution to an IRA, but once you've reached your maximum contribution for the year, you cannot contribute more. So kind of to answer your question, you really need to, when you're looking to buy the property at the outset, want to make sure that you have enough of a cushion there that should anything happen. The other thing you could do at that time, if you went over cost, you didn't have any more in your IRA, you couldn't put more in, you could always try to obtain financing, getting a non-recourse loan from a bank or a private individual to get more cash in the IRA, or you could always look at possibly bringing in a partner at that time, maybe selling a portion of the property to a partner who brings some cash into the deal and help you get that fixed. So that's something certainly I can talk to you, again, the same kind of situation, talk to you more on a private level, because I want to get the presentation back over to Rob. Rob, take it away.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm sorry, guys. A little trouble with the technology side today. Just taking off on what Scott was talking about, there's so many different retirement accounts. You can use your health savings account, which I have one. You can have a 401k Roth, which I have one of those. I have traditional, and I have regular Roths. And we've done many transactions in all of these things that have furthered our retirement dollars. So these are things that if you have the goals and your belief is strong enough, you can make them happen. And if you're looking for finance money for, I know a source for non-recourse money for IRAs. My contact information is on the bottom. So whatever questions don't get answered, if you see my email down there or my phone number, feel free to call me. Anybody on this call, you got a free pass. I'll answer your questions. We'll just set up a time when you have them. So my biography is, for the most part, it's up there. We buy a lot of houses. We built houses, and we've done it in a lot of different places. I used to focus on Florida, but I live in Tampa. I only focus on having my residence there, as well as I do my business primarily up in the Atlanta area, which we'll share that with you as I get the screen going. There we go. So the overview today is most people have it wrong in America. They think that they should be saving their money for their retirement. The truth is you need to invest your money to retirement. You don't want to get to retirement when you have this X amount of dollars available. What you want is you want to replace the income that you've been making. You need to replace your job income with residual income investments. Nothing does that better than single-family houses, in my opinion. We're going to talk about some of the mistakes people are making, why we like single-family houses for retirement accounts, positives and pitfalls in finding investment properties, a little bit about private money lending, equity participation model, which is a very strong model that we provide for some of our investors, and your official invitation to just call me if you have questions at no charge. So I'm going to kind of grip it and rip it. I'm going to kind of run kind of quick, and you guys can type in questions, and Scott will stop me at some point because I'm looking at what is on my slides so that I stay on point so we get this done within about 20 minutes. But it's critical. Not to save, you got to invest, and most plans are skewed toward savings. Since 2001, about 15% of IRA owners have lost faith in mutual funds and stocks. The problem with funds and stocks is you never want to need your money the day the market crashes. And I've got the perfect solution. I do know how to get $1 million in the stock market, and that is to start with $2 million. The day you need it is the day it goes down. I've done it before. I'll never do it again. It doesn't pay a dividend. Kind of like gold and silver. I see no purpose in having them. They don't pay a dividend. When a house will, plus it goes up in value, and we get tax benefits unless it's in your IRA, because then you don't get to write it off. Okay. So let's see. We talk about mistakes that retirement account holders are making. Many people are just letting their money sit there, and they're losing ground simply to inflation. You know, the late, great Jack Miller once said, if you can see your money in a bank account, it's not invested. And, folks, I got to tell you, just because it's sitting there, you're going backwards every time you take a breath because we have inflation and it ravages us. You know, I'll give you an example. I sell a lot of houses to people in South Africa, probably over 200. And last year, if they bought a house in the U.S. from us in January, by the end of the year, 2014, December, they'd lost 20% against our currency. Just to give you an idea, they have to get their money out of their country and so do some of these other countries because their inflation is off the wall, and they lose against our currency, which is getting so strong. So many times people are overanalyzing. They've got paralysis of analysis. It's just too hard. They look for all the reasons to say no to a deal. They leave their investment decisions up to someone else, like a stockbroker, investing in assets they are unfamiliar with. I had a couple of siblings invest in car paper, and they found out just how car paper, like in automobiles, and my one sibling lost $25,000. Another one of my siblings invested in some guy was buying tractor trailer loads of razor blades and things like that and selling them on eBay, and everything was fine until he got shut down. But he paid my brother back a few times, and then he got really excited, and it was 20% haircut that he was going to make on his money, and so now he lost $150,000. The guy went bad on him. He didn't know anything about that stuff, and I have all the money now. I can tell you where it's at. It's in houses, and they keep assets that are performing poorly. If something doesn't work, cut the loss, get rid of it, cut bait, and move on. We bought some bad houses. We don't have them anymore. We got rid of them. They were mostly in Detroit. Saving instead of investing in retirement, and some people believe that they have to have diversification. Now, that's a personal thing. My idea of diversification, because I only buy houses, and somebody said to me once is, but you're not diversified. I said, sure I am. I buy houses on different streets. They're not all in the same street or in the same neighborhood. I've got big ones, I got little ones, I got mid-sized ones. That's my idea, because you know what? Every month they pay me. So we're talking about diversification. Less than 2% of the money in IRAs right now in retirement accounts is invested in real estate, which I find that extremely hard to believe with companies like Advanta out there making these opportunities available to us by giving us a platform to work through. And thank God for these self-directed administrators that allow us to self-direct and preserve our wealth for our retirement. Retirement is not having to work. You need to create cash flow from your investment, and houses will do that for you. All the pictures of houses that you see here are actual houses that we bought, rehabbed, and sold here in the Atlanta area. So why single-family houses for retirement accounts? Well, they can replace your current income. Houses are very easy to understand. They're the most liquid of all real estate investments. And let me just share something with you, because I've had office buildings, I've had apartments, and I've had mixed use. And if I could have, or if you could have, 10 houses worth $100,000 each, and you paid cash, or one apartment building for $1 million, and you paid cash, and you can have either one of those portfolios. If you needed $200,000, a medical emergency came up in your house, in your family household, it's a lot harder to get the money out of an apartment building. Okay, refinance is very expensive, or if you sell it, you're probably going to sell the whole thing to a sophisticated investor that's going to buy it on a cap rate. But if you got houses, and I heard Scott talk about this a little bit ago, you could borrow money on one or two of them, or you could sell a partial interest in one or two of them, or you could sell an option on them. But it's so easy. It's much more liquid and much more easy to move around than larger commercial investments that are pretty much going to most of the real estate investment trusts, because they're looking for that big stuff because they have so much money that they got to place. Well-selected houses offer cash flow and growth. If an opportunity sounds too good to be true, it probably is. People thought they were going to get 20% in Detroit, and what they got was 80% headaches. Houses are negotiable. Try to do that with a stock or a bar of gold or a mutual fund. That's why we love houses. And you can control them by options, ownership, or promissory notes. And in your IRAs, you can do it all those different ways, and we've done it every different way that you can think of that I have right there. Where should you buy houses? Now, folks, I have to tell you, I really did buy houses in over 50 cities in 12 different states. And I didn't do it all actually on purpose. Some of it was I bought a large package of properties in an REO portfolio that's real estate owned by a lender at one point, and they were all over the place. And we found out how much fun that it's not. But I got to tell you, there's just some really common sense rules when you're buying houses that you're going to hold for long-term production of income and growth. Buy where people are moving to. Our country was developed very quickly in the Northeast and in the Mid-Atlantic area. Older cities, New York, any parts of those areas, older cities, cold areas, older problems, older housing stock, sewers, water lines, all that stuff. And old houses just mean new problems all the time. And people are leaving those high tax states to go where there's quality of life, like Florida, like Georgia, like parts of the country. If you live in the West, a lot of people go to Arizona because baby boomers are retiring. We all want quality of life, and people move to where they can have the outdoors available to them more than the 3 months out of the year like we have in some areas. And so you want to go where jobs are being created, where there's a wide, diversified employment sector. And when you show some slides on Atlanta, you won't believe how diversified it is here. Unlike a city like Memphis, which the main employer is Federal Express. And if something happens there, then you have a lot of people that are going to have issues because there'll be a tremendous domino effect in the economy. Avoid potential catastrophic weather areas. Anywhere along the water, you got hurricane issues. Avoid high tax, property tax, and insurance states. Wherever there's water, wherever there's sinkholes, it's a little bit more challenging because those costs are invariably higher, as well as the property taxes. In states like Florida where they don't have an income tax, the state has to make it up somewhere, and the cost of doing business is significantly more expensive in Florida, New York, opposed to like Georgia. For example, just to record a deed, $100,000 house, New York and Florida about $2,000, Georgia about $100. Just a fast example. So areas of the country to avoid. I just touched on that a little bit. Older housing stock, areas of declining population, areas prone to natural disaster, liberal states, consumer-protected states. Can you say New York and Massachusetts and California? High-income states, they all qualify. You'll see a pattern developing. These are not the places I would want to put my money. And I have, but I would never do it again. So it's a common sense approach. Buy where people are moving to, newer houses, well-located houses in subdivisions. Buy in the first-time buyer's price range. And, of course, do your own due diligence. You can't believe everything that everybody tells you, particularly if it sounds too good. And all these things that I'm sharing with you are things that we do. This is all out of my own personal playbook for buying houses. Additional safety precautions. You should always get a home warranty on a house. Always a home inspection. You need an attorney or at very least a title company to handle your closing, and you want to deal with experienced property management. You need to get plenty of resumes. Before we came to Atlanta, I tried 2 different companies up here. neither one of them respected my money. The first company I fired after 30 days, the second company after 45 days. And we went back to what we used to do, which was manage our own stuff, and we manage just under 700 houses here now, all houses that we bought and sold to investors that we work with. So why we operate in Atlanta? Folks, I'm giving you the inside scoop here. This is where I buy. This is the only place in the country where I buy. Unless I could steal something and flip it somewhere else, but this is where I'm holding. Diverse employment sectors. 75% of the Fortune 1000 companies are here. Low property and income taxes. Low homeowners insurance. It's a pro-business state. It's the transportation hub of the South. There's more. I know there's more. It's got a moderate climate. It's a beautiful area. I just had a house buying group in from France, 11 buyers 3 days ago. And they bought. This is not the first time we've had the French over here. They couldn't get over how beautiful this place is. And they call Atlanta the Canopy City. Not the French, but that's what it's known as. You know about our sports teams, thriving nightlife, theaters, high-end shopping, top quality museums. But I like the broad economic base the most. Investors that we work with, they really want safety first and above all things. And, you know, we all come from different seasons. We're all in different seasons of life, and we all have different experiences. So whenever we talk to anybody that wants to get involved with us, we try to find out about them and what their background is and what they're comfortable with. And, you know, do you have kids? And, you know, how much leverage can you have where you're not making your portfolio too risky? You see, as we get older, we want safety above everything. I'm 60. I lost a ton of money in my life. I've done a lot of different things, and I've lost a lot of money in a lot of different ways. I've got tremendous scars, probably some fresh blood if I lift up my shirt, but I don't want to lose money anymore. I don't want to make a mistake. So I will err on the side of safety all the time. I'm older. I don't want to rebuild. It's no fun rebuilding. I've done that before. Probably some of you listening have done it or will do it before your life is over. And it's no fun. When you're young, you can take all kinds of risks. You've got time is on your side. Okay? Time is on your side. Scott, Rolling Stone songs, going to see him tonight. Okay, that's an old Stone songs. They're in Atlanta tonight, folks. Just had to throw that in there somehow. Don't know how it happened. But when you're young, you do have time on your side. And as you get older, hey, I got news for all of us. Yesterday's gone. We all got one day left to live. Let's enjoy this one. So everybody comes from a different season of life, and you can take on more risk at different seasons without making yourself crazy.
Hey, Rob, I just had somebody just pipe in. Just if you can talk maybe a little bit louder. I can hear you okay, but maybe his phone, maybe not the same. Just speak a little bit louder if you can. Thanks.
Sure. Is this better? Because I'm going to hold the phone closer to my hand. Is that better?
Yeah, that sounds a little better, yes.
Or hold it closer to my face is what I meant to say. So we're going to go through some pictures here now. These, again, all houses that we bought. This is the right house in the right area. Nice street, nice subdivision. You can see that. This is the right house, but it's in the wrong area. But you wouldn't know that by looking at the picture. And that's the distinct advantage I have over every one of you on the call or anybody else that comes into the city, because somebody can show you stuff, but you don't know if it's a good area. You don't know the schools there. You don't know the crime area. And a lot of times this is how people get buffaloed into buying houses that are not really in the right area, and you have to be very careful because pictures are deceiving. That's why when the French were here, and the month before that we had the South Africans and then the Canadians before that, we love taking them to the neighborhood. It doesn't matter if we can't get inside. There's already a tenant in. Here's the video. The key is to see the neighborhood, and you see where you're buying. And when we do that with them, they flip out because we know how to buy this stuff. We've been doing it, 35 years. Don't tell anybody.
Hey, Rob, just real quick, if you don't mind, on that last house you're showing, what made it the wrong area? I mean, you said it, well, actually, if you can maybe touch on the two things. What made it the right house? Like, was there a certain type of house that you prefer? And then kind of what made it the wrong area, just to kind of share that with the people that are listening on how you evaluated that to decide, hey, this is not the right area you want to be in.
Great question. And, guys, anybody type in a question, we'll answer. Everything will stay here till tomorrow morning if we need to. You can't tell by looking at it, Scott. It's a really low-income area, Section 8 houses all around that house. Okay? Looks like a great house. We didn't buy it. We don't want nothing to do with Section 8. When you have a lot of Section 8 in a neighborhood, it's going to keep values down. There's just no way around it. We want to go into homeowner neighborhoods where there's primarily more homeowners. This is very easy to tell at different times of day. Sometimes you've got to be there in the nighttime and see when people come out into the streets and the basketball hoops come out or what have you. Okay, the right area is a homeowner neighborhood for us, where everybody, for the most part, is taking care of their property and there's pride of ownership and there's very few rentals in it. And we like houses that don't necessarily back up to other houses when possible. We like them to back up to tree space and stuff like that on cul-de-sacs. So that's just some of it. And it could have been the schools as well here, because it all really ties together. Low income, higher crime, not as good schools. That's why doing your own due diligence, going to see the houses is so important. And that's also why I had so much respect for our international buyers that come up here to look at one house or 5 houses that they own, where we've actually sold houses to people in Georgia. I'm not kidding when I say this. They live less than 150 miles away, and they never even came to look at their houses. So we respect the people that do their due diligence, and you want to be that person. You do not want to count on somebody else to do it, because you're the one that's responsible for your financial future, not your mom, not your dad, not your brother, not your sister, not your pastor, the priest, the rabbi, the government, you. Okay? And that's why we love sharing this information, because I've picked it up years ago and I've continued to just work myself into this program where it really does work if you stay to it. You can really take care of yourself if you'll get the education and you'll apply yourself. But some people don't have time, and that's why you need people to help you with things like this if you don't have the time. So strategies to safely increase value in your IRA. And one of the things, and Scott said this, you could be a private lender. And when you're a private lender, you can get above average interest rates, you can raise the points and lower the rates, but you got to know who you're doing business with, and you got to consider different types of models to make sure that you're in the right situation. Now, let me explain something. Let's pretend you find a guy that wants to buy and fix houses and he's going to sell them, and he's going to make a profit. You want to know that he's got a track record. He's done it before. You want to look at stuff that he's done, and you want to especially see what he's rehabbed. But if you're lending him money and somebody's going to do a flip, the interest rate's important, but it's not as important as the points. The points you never get back. If you lend $100,000 and you got 5 points, you just made $5,000, assuming the guy pays you back. Okay? If you have 12% interest on it and he pays you back in a month or even 2 months or 3 months, let's say 3 months, you've got about $3,600 back. So I would go in with a lower interest rate of like 8% and get higher points on a short-term flip, because that's going to put more money in your IRA quickly. Now, I have people that give me 100% financing, including the rehab, because of my track record, and they want their money out. They know that I've saved. Don't you ever do that. You'll give it to the wrong people, and they'll screw you, and then you'll get stuck with a house. And I bet you Scott's got stories of investors or clients that he can't share with you that have done all kinds of transactions that didn't work out. It's your money. You need to look after it yourself. Be careful and do your due diligence on who you're doing business with. But being a private lender is a great way to make money in your IRA. I've done it many, 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 many times. Now I'm in a different stage of life, and I mostly just hold houses.
Hey, Rob, real quick, I had a question come in. I think I just want to address it now because it's kind of goes back to we're talking about the right house, wrong area. You mentioned an area that had a lot of rentals, and the question came up: how do you determine, what data to use, or where do you go to look to see how many rentals there are in a particular area?
Great question, guys. Keep them coming. I love every question that comes in here, because that means you're listening and you want information. Now, there's a website out there. I believe it's called city-data.com. And we used to use that all the time, all the time. And the problem is, I don't think they've updated their information since 2008. And we know that at one point we had close to about 60% of all Americans owning houses here. It might have been a little bit more than that. Now we're back down to about 53 or 54%. So you can't really rely on that website. And what we rely on is driving around in the areas, knowing the areas where you're in. Again, the late great, and I do mean great, Jack Miller would talk about having your own farm area. This is the area that you work, these subdivisions or this part of your city. Well, I'm a maniac. My area is like 77 miles wide and 77 miles north and south, east and west and north and south. My area is giant. It's impossible. It's impossible to know all those areas. But once you get into a neighborhood, you really can have a good sense. And a lot of times you got to talk to people. You just got to talk to people. People will come up to you believe it or not. So that's what we do. We're in the hoods, and we have people that are in those areas that we know that can help us as well. So it's a network of association is very important as well. And Scott, keep bringing it to us when these questions come in, because we want to stay on point if it's about something we're talking about.
Okay, we'll do, Rob.
You betcha. Now, guys, I'm going to share with you probably the greatest program that we have, and we call it the equity participation model. When I say the greatest program, I just mean it's a very, very safe model, and you can do this with other operators that you're familiar with. But this is what we do, and I just want to share it with you because I personally think it's one of the safest investments for people with retirement accounts. In this program, before I start cooking sides, I'm just going to say what we do in our program, and I'm sure there's other people that would do this if they knew how. I select a house that I made a terrific opportunity on, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 below value, today's market, not tomorrow's. And I put up the money, and we do the rehab, and then an investor replaces all of my money, okay? And they come in as a lender, okay, because it's your IRA. Your IRA doesn't need to own a house because it doesn't get the tax benefit. So they come in as a lender. But the lender, the terms of the note are the terms that we agree upon. And those terms typically are that the lender gets all the net rent for the first 2 years, then we split it 50-50, and we split the upside 50-50. So now I'll take a look at some slides, and we'll see if I've got it in here a little bit better. So here's how it looks. And I'm doing this right now with a lady in California who was brought to me. And I've got her house selected. It's worth $140,000. I bought it for $105,000. We're going to probably put $5 into it, and it'll run for $1,200. But if you see, we get a good discount, okay? Then we will negotiate a deal where she gets the first 15 to 20 grand. Whatever we put to rehab it is what it is. We don't make a dime. After that, the net rent is split 50-50, and you sell the house in 5 years or you keep it for a long-term hold. That's how simple it is. You see, here's the thing. When we sell to other investors right now, and this is any operator in the country, if they're buying, rehabbing, and selling, they're making a profit on the sale. And sometimes we make $5,000. Sometimes, believe it or not, we might make $50,000 because I'm very good at sourcing property. In fact, I just bought a couple this week that I know there's $40,000, $50,000 in them. So if you've got those kind of discounts that you're getting today, plus you've got the future appreciation, these are very, very strong, safe opportunities for people to look at when you can find them with the right people. Now, on this slide, these are all actual houses that we've done, ranging, and I think, yeah, they're right in order there. If you look at the picture, 65,000, 127, and 117. I know these houses. The one in the middle sold before for $275,000, just to give you an idea. That's what it sold for before. We're into it, rehabbed and everything, and it's rented for $1,500 a month. The one on the far right, I know that house is on Rivercrest, and it's brand new. Everything in the house is brand new. Kitchen, granite, AC, everything. It's rented for, I think, $1,300 or $1,400 a month, and the investors are getting the first rents for the first 2 years on those. Rent ranges are the numbers are right there, 900, 1,500, and 12. Okay, it was 1,200, not 14. But that shows a pretty good situation for these people getting involved. If we would have sold those houses, we would have sold them for significantly more than what they got into them for. Okay, so here's the exact example. That was the first one was on Marcel Court, and this investor is that house right now today. We did this about a year and a half ago. It's worth probably $95,000 to $105,000, just to give you an idea. Okay, built in 2004. If you ever read a book on buying single-family houses, they would tell you that a 322 is the ideal house to buy for a rental, and I think there's some truth to that. Yeah, these now they're broken down individually. 85 Lightwood in Covington, fantastic house on a full basement, but that just gives you the idea. That house today, the market on that house today, in fact, I just sold a house to the right of it for $175,000 to a guy in South Africa. No, that's not true. He paid $183. Rivercrest was the one in the middle. Fantastic house. into it for $117,000, rent it for $1,200. But it's not just being into it for that amount of money. It's the work that went into it, the new kitchen, the new master bath, the new air conditioning, all the floor grids, everything. And these houses, for the most part, are completely maintenance-free on the outside. The nice thing about Atlanta, most of the houses are made of brick or vinyl siding or stone or a combination. And every time we're looking at houses, we're always thinking about maintenance. How do we get things as much maintenance-free as possible? We don't want to do any work. We want to do it on the front side.
Hey, Rob, the other quick question, if I can jump in, not necessarily on any of the houses, but somebody was asking, what is the rate of appreciation you are seeing in Atlanta right now? Someone just that's kind of popping in. I don't know if you have the numbers on that, but what are you looking at appreciation maybe within the last few years?
Yeah, that is a great question. I started working here, I'm thinking it was like 6 years ago. When I came here, and I got caught like everybody else that was in real estate with a lot of houses, and I was underwater in Florida like many other people, and probably 100 houses or so. So I know what it's like for the market to bottom out, and I know what it's like to watch it come back. My houses, for the most part, have doubled since the ones that I bought when I first got here. In the last 2 years, we've seen about 10%, okay? Literally about 10%. And you can, guys, ladies, I got to tell you, be careful of people's statistics. Be careful who's ever given you statistics, because anybody can take statistics. It's hard for me to say, but I know what I mean. Anybody can take statistics and pervert them to their point of view. You have to be very, very careful. Now, I dropped my crystal ball the other day. It's cracked again. And I'm not one that feels like a prophet that I can predict the future. However, I know what I see on the streets, and I know what I see every day with the construction of roads being widened all around the Atlanta metropolitan area. And we see jobs being created. Georgia's so smart. They just offered Mercedes $23 million in tax incentives, and they just moved down here and opened up a giant, giant facility. So we see for sure 3% all day long. I think you could take that to the bank and you wouldn't get hurt. But it really depends where you buy the houses and your price point going in. You've heard it before. You make your money when you buy, okay? And the key is to make sure that you're buying something that isn't going to need a lot of work down the road, number one. Number two, that it's in a homeowner neighborhood that's in a desirable area where people want to live. You don't want to buy that white elephant on the hill or below the hill or next to a gas station or behind the apartments or with no backyard or a corner lot that's all chopped up. We buy stuff that people want to live in. See, our exit plan, if we ever decided to sell, and if any of you guys know Pete Fortunato, Pete and I have been friends for about 40 years, and it took me a long time, but I finally subscribed to part of his philosophy, and that is I don't sell stuff anymore that I'm keeping. There's just no point. I just got to go out and replace it. Even if I make $60,000, $70,000, I'm buying at today's new rate. It's the same thing. I don't need to do that. We just buy and hold and hold and hold. But if we sold, we've bought in the right areas that we can sell to a homeowner. And homeowners always pay more money than an investor. That's why it's important not to buy in cities like Detroit or Dayton, Ohio, and Niagara Falls, New York. I'm just throwing out some cities here. I'm just doing a little batching because it's easy for me. Because those areas are losing population. They're going down in value. And the utilities end up costing more, and the services ultimately get cut in these areas because there's less people paying for them. You want to buy where people are moving to. I had 3 spectacular mentors in my life. The first, you've heard me use his name a few times today, Jack Miller. Another guy, John Schaub out of Sarasota. And it was John and Jack, the art of making it big on little deals, 1981, is what revolutionized and changed my life. But there was another guy. His name was Jimmy Napier. And Jimmy was able to take things and allow you to understand them in a way. Between him and John, we could take Jack's abstract ideas and figure out exactly how to do it. But Jimmy said one thing, and I want to share it with you today because it took me 30 years to get it into my head. And he said this: "You're not a tree, you can move." And what he meant by that was, hey, look at you. You might not have good deals in your areas. I've been to Salt Lake City. It's hard to find a good deal there. It's really hard to find a good deal there. It's hard in some areas, and they don't exist perhaps. But that doesn't mean you have to invest where you live. And where I lived up in Western New York years ago, I never wanted to leave my family. Well, I finally left, and guess what? My family followed me. So it's amazing, and it's a great concept, but you want to buy in the right part of the country that's going to make sense for the long term. So I think, Scott, that's our last slide. If I come back to the end, I do believe that my information is here, that you guys can call me. You were on this. You took the time out of your day to listen to me and to listen to Scott. And I can't say enough good things about Scott and his company because I've gotten to know him over the years. So approachable, so easy to work with, the whole company at Advanta. You guys are already there. You wouldn't be on this. But I have to pass it along.
Good. Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate that.
And if anybody's got a question for me, my direct line, the phone I'm on right now is 813-495-3006. That's my cell phone. And just don't call me tonight. You know where I'll be.
All right. Well, give a few more minutes. If anyone has any other questions, please get them typed in. I think that was definitely some good information. And just maybe some, Rob, we'll give people a chance to ask their question. I'll ask you one. Obviously, you said you're now in a more of a buy and hold strategy for yourself personally. If you're a new investor or someone maybe in a different space, how do you evaluate a property to decide kind of flip versus buy and hold?
Great question. Happens all the time. A flip is a house for me, definitely that I don't want to hold. It's not in the right area. There's something wrong. I've got one right now. I just bought a 4-sided brick house, just under 3,000 square feet, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, granite kitchens, all the appliances, stainless steel. And you heard me right, $105,000. We'll rent for $1,300 a month without question, $1,200 to $1,300. But I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip it because on the other side of that neighborhood, there's a lot of riffraff. They're brand new houses, but it looks like Section 8. And I think that part of the neighborhood is going to destroy my part of the neighborhood. So the long-term holds are always going to be in a great neighborhood, in a good neighborhood, in a solid neighborhood, whereas we could flip anything else. And then it depends sometimes, Scott. You know, if you got such a great deal, and it depends what your money needs are, what your financial needs are. Sometimes we'll flip stuff and I'd rather keep it because I just didn't have enough money. Unfortunately, we get more opportunities than we can afford to hang on to. So that also directs it. And then it's also, it depends on the neighborhood. Some neighborhoods that we buy in, we can see that the comparable sales are very high, and we know that we can move it because there's nothing available. We just picked up a few of those that instead of selling them to investors for $20,000 less, we know we can get $20,000 more by taking them retail. So when you have enough stuff that comes into your funnel of opportunities, which is what we do. In fact, we got yelled at by 3 different cities today. I had our troops put out about 500 signs to buy houses. That's just one of the things that we do. It was actually kind of comical. But they can't find us because it was voice over internet. I said, just leave the signs up. They'll take them down when they're tired of them. But when you have enough deals, you're able to assess very, very quickly. You have to look at comparable sales. You have to look at Zillow, but you have to be careful with Zillow because Zillow doesn't take into consideration if the market went down, but now it's bad, but there's no sales. It'll still show the old values. So you also have to look at price per square foot, but that can also screw you up because just because it's a big house doesn't mean it's a good house. You have to be very careful at that price per square foot. So let's summarize. How would you decide? Well, good neighborhood to buy and hold and keep. Okay, good school systems, everything. That might switch you right there. Some riffraff around there, too much of a rehab. You don't want to do the rehab. That might be a wholesale deal for you. And if you got great terms, if you buy and you got great terms to hold, like I just bought a house with no interest, $10,000 down to balance the payments and equal monthly installments of $350 until paid in full. If you guys want to know how to write those deals, you can send me an email and I'll try to coach you along because I'm really good at that. At buying houses at no interest when it's the right seller. You can't do it on the wrong seller. It's got to be the right situation because you only want to buy houses from people that are motivated to sell. If they're not motivated, move on. Find the next person because the non-motivated is going to want too much.
Hey, Rob, we got two more questions, and I think that we'll try to wrap it up. We're getting close to that 1 o'clock. First one, pretty quick. Just the houses that you kind of went through those examples. Do you know when they were purchased? Kind of what years? Was that fairly recently? In the last few years? Do you remember offhand?
Yeah. Every one of those was within the last year and a half.
Okay. And then the other question was, how do you find houses outside of the MLS? You know, kind of when you're looking to find a house, where
Sure.
do you look for? How do you find those deals?
I'm going to give it to you guys exactly the way it is. I'm going to tell you exactly what I do. Okay, I buy houses at auction, so you can get data on websites in your area that have auctions, and we buy at the auction. So those don't hit the MLS. These are foreclosures primarily. Okay, where the lender is going to take back the house. That's one place. We do have people scouring the MLS for us all the time, so that is another place. We also have a bunch of, I have trained realtors in different areas that know to get me what I'm looking for, okay, so that I said that right. Then we got bird dogs out there. I went and met with this one bird dog this morning before this call. He had 3 houses for me, and well, he can keep them. They weren't very good. So that's the other place. What else? We do a lot of internet marketing. You can pay per click and do organic searches. You can figure out what company I am by just typing in "sell your house fast" in Atlanta or any of the 20 cities right around here, and I assure you my company is probably number one because we're doing pay per click as well as getting our organic ratings up there. You can also put ads in the paper. We have ads in the paper right now. And I did get a few houses that way. And we just did this sign campaign, you know, sell your house today, top dollar paid. And it's really comical because we had 3 different city people complaining, but you know, we used a certain number, and I have a smart person answering the phone. You got to be careful because they want to fine you if you put out hundreds of signs in their town.
Yeah, just I had a question. Do you ever? Because I know I've heard. I know Bill Cook locally up here talks about it. I've heard people down in the Tampa area talk about it as well. But do you ever do any door knocking? Just kind of going into a neighborhood and asking around. I know that's something John Schaub is a big proponent of too. Just knocking on doors and asking if anybody's selling their house.
You know, I have done that. We used to. Okay, so like when I moved to Tampa, like maybe 13 years ago, then we had the big hurricane that was coming right for Tampa, but it took a hard right into Port Charlotte. You remember that one, Scott?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So I went down to Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda. I bought 25 houses in 25 days. I put a giant ad on the back of the newspaper, and I had 5 people going around knocking on doors and putting banners on doors or little door holders. Okay. I personally don't do it. To me, you know, you do those kind of things when you have more time than money. Right now, and I don't want this to sound wrong, but I have more money than time, and I pay for things that I don't have or want to invest the time to do. Can that work? It worked for us. It did work a little bit. I don't think it works great, and I think it takes a lot of time. And this is critical that you guys, okay, this is a really important point. A lot of times you get a lot of guys that teach real estate out there, and they're teaching stuff that it might have worked in a certain period of time. It doesn't work today, or it doesn't work exactly that way today, or it doesn't work at all. That takes a lot of time door knocking. Now, that's how I actually bought my home in Tampa. I knocked on this door. I saw a sign on it. She said, no, there was no sign. I just knocked. I said, no, we just sold it. You're too late. You should talk to my realtor, and that guy found me my house. So I got it from indirectly door knocking.
Okay. Well, again, thanks very much for joining us. I appreciate the information you shared with us. And if anyone needs Rob's contact information, I'll bump back the slide here so you can get it there. Certainly give him a call. He can get you definitely some good information. I want to thank Rob again very much for joining us. I encourage anyone that's listening on the webinar, you want to attend any of our future events, just go to our website at advantaira.com for one of our other seminars that we might have coming up, whether it's live or a webinar again like the one we did today. So thank you again, everybody, for participating. We look forward to talking with you. Rob, thanks again.
My pleasure, Scott. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.